Right, the regular season is coming close to an end, and the playoffs are just on the horizon. These are the last 2 weeks for players to make a late season statement for Player of the Year and help their team get to November. Listen, we've got a big show for you tonight, and it all starts right now on Gridiron Glory. Welcome back into Studio 8, everyone. I am your host, Joseph Payton. On tonight's show, we've got a little bit of everything: game coverage, playoff talk, and a few players that you need to look out for. And with that being said, we're going to kick off tonight's show with a game that went down in Reedsville. Eastern welcomed Belpre, and TVC Hockey reporter Nick Mullins was out there on the sidelines for it. So tell us how it went, man.
Joey P., both these teams are 3-5 on the season, and they both had losing streaks. But tonight, they were looking to pick up that win. It was a battle between Reedsville and, man, both these teams they just seemed not to get it going right away. From Eastern had the ball at the 27-yard line, but they could only get a field goal on that. And then Matt Blanchard found Matt Jernsons, and he zigzagged his way down the field for 90 yards. I mean, just touchdowns were in abundance tonight, and that was really the story of the game when Belpre just was able to go into halftime leading 23-14, but Eastern kind of got another touchdown. They got to 20, but Belpre would go on to win 49-14.
So Belpre, they come away with a big win tonight. Just kind of tell us, what does this do for Belpre moving forward? I mean, they're kind of a middle-of-the-pack TVC Hawking team. How do you think this will move them forward into Week 10 right now?
I mean, they face Waterford next week, so that's going to be a little bit of a, tougher test than Eastern. But, as you see, Eastern just couldn't catch anything tonight, but Belpre, they were just flying the ball all over the place, and they couldn't catch anything either. But for the most part, their offense was going strong. But Eastern, there again, just dropping passes left and right. They just could not find anything to go. They just had a dominant. Belpre usually was dominant all night long on defense, but Brandon Simonetti was the leader for this Belpre team. But like right here, he just runs his way up the sideline, runs over that Eastern defender, and then right here he throws it deep. And he just had big plays all night, and that was really the story of the game tonight.
Right. And can you talk about Belpre's quarterback, Simonetti? This kid's only a sophomore. What are some things about his game that you specifically saw tonight that you really like about him?
I mean, he's just a dynamic quarterback. He can run. He gets on the edge. He doesn't just sit in the pocket like a conventional quarterback. He can get on the edge, throw that ball deep, and he was making a lot of plays tonight. But he was definitely backed up by his running backs, Isaac Toyers and Tajay Reams. They were making a lot of big plays for him out there. So it wasn't just him tonight.
All right, and then just briefly talk about Eastern on the other side of the ball. They had some missed opportunities tonight. What do you think was the problem that really just went wrong for them? I
mean, just drop passes. Like I said, they couldn't get anything going. Turnovers and drop passes that was basically the story of their offense. And on defense, they just couldn't stop the Belpre's offense tonight, and that was really mostly the story of the game. Besides Belpre's offense just putting up a lot of points on them.
All right, Belpre's offense, they were on tonight, and as you mentioned, Eastern's offense, they just couldn't make the big play tonight. But listen, man, we appreciate your TVC Hawking expertise, and thanks for the great work tonight, all right? All right, now moving on, a win on the road tonight for Trimble over Alexander would all but clinch a playoff spot for the Tomcats. We had TVC Hawking reporter Duncan Goldberg and TVC Ohio reporter Maggie Shandrick there for the game. Guys, how did it go?
Yeah, Joey P., a win tonight for the Tomcats would basically send them to their 8th straight playoff appearance.
But Duncan, for the Spartans, this was a pride game as they were ready to try and wreck Trimble's playoff streak. And it was senior night for the Spartans, and they walk out onto the field in fashion. They are pumped up. They are ready to get that dub for their seniors. First play of the game, Brad McCalster gets the handoff for 12 yards and a first down, but that couldn't make anything else happen, and they were forced to punt.
Now Cam Kittle on the Tomcats' first drive. He finds his guy Max Hubert for an 11-yard gain here on 3rd down. And then here on 4th down, Kittle drops back, and the screen pass works to perfection as Hooper puts a man in a spin cycle and gets the Tomcats a first down. And then the next play, Connor Wright, he punches it in from 6 yards out. Touchdown, Tomcats up 7-0.
2 drives later for the Spartans, Caleb Easley, whoops, that's going to be a safety, score 9-0 Tomcats. Trimble gets the ball back, and Kittle drops back and goes deep over the middle and finds Bryce Richards, who reaches back to snag the ball. That will be a gain of 38 yards as the Tomcats keep rolling down the field.
And a few plays later, Max Hooper punches it in for his first touchdown of the game. Tomcats now up 17-0, and their defense is going to dominate the rest of the game and the rest of the half too. And frankly, they were able to put Alexander in their place as they win this one, 38-0.
Well, a big-time blowout by the Tomcats tonight, guys. Really, they clicked on all cylinders. What was the most impressive part about their game?
Well, Joey P., like you just said, they were clicking on all cylinders. The Tomcats secondary was stellar, and their defensive line stuffed the run all game long. While on the other side of the football, their O-line protected Kittle and made giant holes for their running game.
Yeah, Duncan, and that running game is what impressed me the most. They ran that wishbone offense to perfection. Sawyer Coons was leading the way at fullback, making great lead blocks for either Max Hooper or Connor Wright, and those two were monsters with the ball in their hands. Hooper made the Spartan defense miss left and right, while Connor Wright was bruising his way for big-time yards.
Maggie, I 100% agree with you on that. And the one amazing thing for that Trimble team that has going for them, these four guys, Cam Kittle, Sawyer Coons, Connor Wright, and Max Hooper, are going to be back there again next year. It's definitely a good time to be a Tomcat.
But if they want to have any form of success in the playoffs, they really need to cut down on the penalties. They had way too many tonight, and it even killed a couple of their drives. There were a total of 14 penalties for 97 yards between the two teams in the first half alone.
You can get away with that against teams like Alex, but once you start playing playoff teams, they'll end up losing you the game.
Hey, you know, that's something the Tomcats are going to have to work on moving forward, but thanks for the great work over there, guys. All right, listen, the 21st century is wild. When it comes to visual content, YouTube.com, that's the place where the video content lives. So click on over to YouTube and visit the WOUB PBS channel. That's where you can find all of the videos, highlights, and feature stories that we crank out here at Gridiron Glory. So jump over there and watch your favorite clips. And of course, be sure to share the video with everybody else you know as well. Okay, over in the TVC Ohio, two teams that find themselves in the middle of the conference standings squared off, Meigs and Wellston. TVC Ohio reporter Paul Roth was there, and he was in Wellston to catch all the action.
That's right, Joey P. The Golden Rockets welcomed the Meigs Marauders in a game where both teams were looking to end losing streaks, but only one could leave the Gridiron victorious. It was senior night in Wellston, and they will be saying goodbye to 15 graduating players. One of those players was Travis J. John, who takes this up the sideline and absorbs a hit and gets the first down. A couple plays later, look at them, just going right up the sideline, banging guys, falling down, nothing could stop them. A couple plays later, Wellston will swing it to the right, but Ryan Mulhan takes reverse, sweeps to the left, and the trickery works as he's going to go in untouched for a score, putting the Golden Rockets up 7-0. But their lead won't last long, as on the ensuing kickoff, Cole Adams is a man on a mission, bolting through the Wellston defense, up the sideline, one man to beat, and he makes a miss as he trots into the end zone, 80-yard return, giving Meigs the lead 8-7 after a 2-point conversion. Meigs goes to kick off, but it's an onside kick! Leaping over the Wellston defense and hauling it in is Bailey Carruthers. What a grab by that man. That will help Meigs extend their lead over Wellston as a few plays later, Lane Cullums busts through the middle, making it 15-7 Meigs. After both teams traded punts, Wellston went back to J. John, who takes the pitch to the outside, and he will go all the way. 44 yards on the carry, and Wellston ties it at 15. Later in the quarter, J. John gets it again, and he is dragging defenders to the goal line, taking 5 guys with him. That sets up Zach Dress to power through the middle and put Wellston on top 21-15 before halftime, and Wellston would end up winning overtime thriller 45-43.
Well, you called it a thriller. It was definitely a thriller. It was back and forth all night long before Wellston. As you mentioned, they pulled it out in overtime. So, Paul, what led them to victory tonight?
Well, Joey P., there was a number of things that helped Wellston tonight. First and foremost, the performance by Travis J. John. J. John was playing his last game at C.H. Jones Field tonight, and he was going to make sure it was one to remember. After being stuffed last week against Athens, he was running all over Meigs. It didn't matter if it was up the gut, a pitch to the outside, nothing. He was going to put the team on his back and lead him to victory. He was a man among boys, rumbling downfield, breaking tackles left and right, and his running would help open a side of the Golden Rockets offense that we barely saw last week, their passing game. After only attempting 3 passes against Athens, Wellston used their running game to give Michael Graham a chance to let it fly. And while it wasn't always clicking perfectly for him, as they only completed 1 pass in the first half, it did help keep Meigs' defense on their toes, which provided more chances for J. John. And while this game's outcome made it a wild one, It was the number of onside kicks that made it a weird one. Out of 5 first-half kickoffs, 4 of them were onside kicks, and the one that was sent deep was sent right back for a touchdown by Meigs.
And that is some crazy stuff, as you just mentioned. We appreciate you running the sidelines out there, man. Good work tonight. All right, it is social media time. Let's check out our Snapchat of the week. We got this one from Lil.Zay5 earlier today, coming straight out of Athens. My man is wondering if you bought your tickets to the gun show, that is. Got the sleeves rolled up, showing them off. You know the weather is getting colder and colder outside. That means it is bulk season, and he's already got a head start. Thanks for the snap, my man. Now, with only 1 week left in the regular season, it's time to talk playoffs. Senior reporter Josh Gregory joins me now to break down the OHSAA points ranking system, and he's going to let us know which teams are safe and which teams need to leave it all out on the field next week. So, Josh, what have you got?
Well, Joey P., this is where football meets maths. It's playoffs, especially since OHSAA's point system is pretty complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to just touch on the basics. So whip out a pen and paper because class is now in session.
You need to know. First things first, the rankings do not reflect a team's strengths, nor do they predict the results of future games. They simply select the best teams for the tournaments based on the caliber of their opponents. When looking at how OHSAA does this, they use the division of your school and the division of the opponents in the regular season to calculate the points. The school's division determines how many points a team gets for winning, and that number never changes. So if your team beats a Division I school, you get 6.5 points, and then we move down every half point until Division 7, where the number is 3.5. Basically, the higher division of the school you beat, the more points you get toward playoffs. Simple, right? Now, very important, no team gets any points for losing a close game. If a Division 6 team almost beats a Division 3 team, they get no points, and the D3 team gets 4 points. You still with me? Now here's where it gets a little tricky for our coverage. In the TVC Hawking, WOUB, it's in West Virginia. So what OHSAA has to do is count the school's male enrollment from freshmen to juniors to figure out a division to assign the school. Then distribute that accordingly when Ohio schools defeat WOUB. When everything is said and done, by next Saturday, the 8 schools with the highest per game average of points in each region will qualify for the playoffs.
So what we just saw is the basic system OHSAA has been using since 1972. Earlier in the week, I talked to Director of Communications Tim Stride about how this affects some of the teams in our coverage who moved down a division like Nelsonville and Tri-Valley.
If you are, in this particular case, let's say you're a Division 6 school and you're playing larger schools, well, if you win some of those games, you're going to get more points. The conference often determines who you play during your league games, and then schools strategically schedule their non-league games.
So here's how some of the top teams in each conference stand. We only have 3 teams in our coverage area who are in control of their own destiny, according to Joe Idle, meaning all they need to do is win out the rest of the season. Waterford, Southern, and NY. And the Buckeyes squeaked by with a heck of a win tonight, 27-24 over Vinton County, with a Garrett Maiden pass to Keegan Wilburn as time expired. But here's where it gets hectic. All of these teams have a very real chance at making the playoffs, specifically Tri-Valley, John Glenn, and Trimble. These 3 play teams in Week 10 that they should beat and will give them a lot of points. And if that is the case, it becomes harder for Philo and Unioto to make the playoffs, but it's very possible. But it depends on if other teams in the region ahead of them lose. Now, Chillicothe and Jackson play each other next week. If Jackson wins, they're probably in because Chillicothe is Division 2. But even if Chillicothe wins, there's a chance they might not be in at all. I hope this makes things a little more simple going into Week 10. I think I heard the bell ring, Joey P. That means it's recess.
That's right. You had us in class there. Thanks for breaking down a really complicated subject and making it simple for us, all right? All right, now let's talk a little Facebook action. Josh just talked about the playoffs a little bit, but one place you can check out our playoff coverage is Facebook. So go over to the Gridiron Glory Facebook account. We'll check out all the stuff that's on there. You want to check out our timeline, especially during playoff season, because we're going to have a bunch of stuff on there where you're going to want to know who your team might be playing, who your rivals might be playing, and, of course, the results of those games. So head on over to Facebook, give us a like, because I'm telling you, this is a place for you when you want to talk about playoff coverage and Gridiron Glory. Okay, over in the MVL tonight, the Crooksville Ceramics hit the road to play the Sheridan Generals, and MVL reporter Nick Orsini also hit the road for that game. He now joins us live from Zanesville.
Well, Joey P., with both teams essentially mathematically eliminated from the postseason, as both teams came in 4-4, this matchup was all about pride. Now, it was senior night, so you know the 14 seniors wanted to leave everything they had on the field. One senior who's had an impressive year so far is Jarrett Munyon. He wastes no time taking the first play from the scrimmage, 85 yards to the house, 7-0 Sheridan just 10 seconds into the game. After a Crooksville punt, Sheridan's offense went right back to work. Ethan Heller connected with receiver Ethan Tabor over the middle for 20 yards, setting up the Generals again. And Munyon would bounce this one to the outside for his second score of the game, a 9-yarder. Sheridan leads 14-0. Now the Ceramics needed to get something going, and they did as quarterback Landon Hinkle breaks the pocket for a 10-yard gain. After converting a 4th down earlier on the drive, again on 4th down, Hinkle rolls to the right, and he throws up a prayer. And it's answered as Colt White comes down with the ball, and into the end zone he goes. It is 14-7 Sheridan. Now ensuing Sheridan possession, back to the ground game they go. Munyon goes up the gut, fighting off Crooksville defenders for 31 yards. Joey P., this guy was virtually unstoppable tonight. He was just running over them like a bulldozer. Now he capped off the drive with a 1-yard rush, his third in the first half alone, and Sheridan coasted to a comfortable 42-16 win.
All right, so Sheridan, they run away with this one in the second half, but how did they continue their dominance from kickoff to the final whistle, Nick?
Well, Munyon's touchdown to open up the game really set the tone for that Sheridan offense. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders tonight, and it wasn't just Munyon. Heller was making crisp passes to receivers Ethan Tabor, Jacob Rhodes, and Tanner Wallenberg. The Generals scored on the first 3 possessions. Their second and third possession chewed up a lot of clock, giving Crooksville less time to catch up. Now, Sheridan's offense always has weapons to burn opposing team defenses, and tonight, Crooksville felt those effects. Munyon had 186 yards in the first half alone. His line created gaps, and he exploited them. He's been a workhorse all season long, and he continued it tonight. Now, Crooksville was outscored 21-9 in the second half. The Ceramics were just outmatched, despite both teams having the same record. Now, Sheridan lost close games to Tri-Valley, John Glenn, and Philo earlier this season, and those losses proved vital, as Sheridan is on the outside looking in and will most likely miss the postseason. Now, the Generals team has a ton of talent, and I expect them to finish their season strong next week when they travel to McConnellsville to take on the Morgan Raiders.
All right, Nick Ursini, he's always bringing the MVL heat. Thanks for the good work, my man. Now, with only 1 week remaining in the regular season, it's time to dive into Gridiron Glory Player of the Year conversation. Now, let's let senior reporter Eric Threek II tell you about his 5 front-runners.
Ohio football means passion, means physicality, means community, but it also means you have the juice. You have the substance that makes you great. And on week 10, 5 gentlemen from this talented area become Gridiron Glory Player of the Year candidates. Now, becoming a member of this short list is not easy. Look at who's competing for this award. You got your Gabe Fishers, your Blakes, your Nailings, your Ethans, your J. Johns, your Wall Drops, your undefeated Nelsonville York Buckeyes, undefeated Southeastern Panthers. But there are only 5 spots, and here are my front runners through week 8. Isaac Gill. He's been a leader on this defense for multiple years, but he's flexing his muscles on offense with 20 touchdowns, scoring them 3 different ways. Garrett Maiden slides into the starting quarterback role and led his team to an undefeated record thus far. By the way, he kicks 2, 89% on extra points, 100% on field goals. Brandon Moffman. Of the quarterbacks in our coverage, he is the only 1,000-yard rusher. He leads the quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns, and he has a District Player of the Year award on his resume already. Braden Belleville. This man embodies what it means to run with power. Nobody in our coverage elegantly puts defenders on their behind like Belleville. And he has 4 touchdown games this year. 3. But my favorite is Tri-Valley quarterback Andrew Newsom. 31 touchdowns, double-digit touchdowns with his arm and with his legs, and Newsom is doing this in the toughest conference in our coverage. There are 2 weeks left to earn your spot. What will you do for Gridiron Glory Player of the Year? Do you have the juice?
Well, you heard it right there from Eric the Juice. That's what these guys will have to bring next week to solidify themselves as one of the best, if not the best. Now, since we're on Player of the Year topic, here's a good way for you to let us know who you think should take home the award. We remind you every week, we are on Twitter, so pull up the app on your phone and go give us a follow at Gridiron Glory. Give me a follow on there too, at GG_JoeyP. Let your feelings be known, people. Reach out to us and state your claim for who you think is the absolute best player in our coverage. And now joining me on desk is FAC reporter Connor Mills. He went out to cover the McLean Tigers, who visited the Jackson Ironmen, and he's now here to break down all the action that happened in that game.
That's right, Joey P. There was a lot of action tonight between the Tigers and the Ironmen as Jackson was looking to keep their playoff hopes alive while McLean tries for the first win this season. Blake McCoy and the Jackson Ironmen getting ready to face McLean Tigers at Alumni Stadium at Holzer Field. Darius White starts out hot for the Tigers. 6-yard gain on that play, and McLean is driving back the Ironman defense. The Tigers push back Jackson to their 40-yard line before turning it over on 4th down. First play for Jackson, Jason Eisenhower laces this one to Caleb Storm, 9-yard gain on the play. 3 plays later, Devin Ball is balling out there. He will take this one for 40 yards down to the 14-yard line. Jackson is in the red zone, and there was no one better than Blake McCoy. McCoy, 13 yards out, puts the Ironmen up 7-0 with 6:35 left in the first quarter. McLean goes 3 and out, and the Ironmen get going. Eisenhower finds Peyton Speakman on the near side for a 29-yard gain. That play keeps the Ironman drive alive and sets up a Caleb Storm's 5-yard touchdown, extending Jackson's lead 14-0. The Tigers put together a long 11-play drive, pinning the Ironmen back to their own 24-yard line. As I said before, I'll say it again, no one is better than McCoy in the red zone. He intercepts Osborne's pass and seals the deal for Jackson. The Ironmen will take a 28-0 lead into the half and will wind up winning and beating the Tigers 49-0 and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Absolutely. A dominating performance from Jackson tonight. We all know about Blake McCoy, but who did the Ironmen really rely on tonight?
You know, Blake McCoy has been tremendous this season, but tonight belonged to Devin Ball.
Yeah, he's not always been a starter, but he really stepped up tonight, don't you think?
That's right. An injury to Reed Evans when Jackson played Miami Trace forced Devin Ball into the spotlight, and he was shining tonight. The Ironmen liked using Devin Ball when they ran a jet sweep, and Ball excelled with it all night long. Ball did not run often, but he made the most out of his 4 carries. All jet sweeps, Ball took them for 88 yards and 1 touchdown. And of course, complimenting him tonight on the ground was Blake McCoy. McCoy did not carry the ball a lot tonight, and I believe Jackson was saving him for their big game next week against Chillicothe, but he also picked up 88 yards on the game. And Joey P., I was impressed with Jackson's sophomore quarterback, Jason Eisenhower. He passed for 82 yards and keeps improving every game. With him at the helm, Jackson's future looks bright.
Well, you just told us a lot about Jackson. Now tell me what was going on with McLean.
McLean has struggled this season, but they've shown a lot of improvement. The Tigers attempted to have some trick plays to catch the Ironmen off guard. Also, McLean was doing a great job hiding the ball from the Ironmen, allowing them to open up the run game. Regardless of their record, the Tigers look to keep on improving this season, and Jackson stays hot for their tough matchup next week.
All right, Connor, we appreciate the good work out there in Jackson tonight, buddy. Now tonight, over in the SVC, the Zane Trace Pioneers were on the road for a date with the Piketon Red Streaks. We knew the fans would be fired up for it tonight, so that's why it is our game of the week. And since it's our game of the week, we sent our dual threat of Nick Niehaus and Nate Busilla. Fellas, did this game live up to the hype?
Yeah, Joey P. This game sure was a thrower. These two teams completely different offensive styles.
And Zane Trace takes the field here. They're waving that flag, hoping to take Piketon down on senior night. Connor Galloway's dropping back, and he throws us to the wrong man. That's Drew Rittenhouse. Pioneers aren't able to capitalize on that, and Galloway's back again. Find his man, Luke Nichols, 20 yards down the field, setting him up in great field position.
Yeah, and they're going to use that great field position to give the ball off to Austin Henderson in here. Big guy going in the end zone, making it 7-0 in the first quarter. Now, Zane Trace, they're not discouraged at all. This is Will Palmer, untouched for 48 whole yards. Now, they tie it up in the second quarter with that one.
And Connor Galloway's dropping back. He's throwing the ball deep again. But wait, that man's in disguise. He's a chameleon. Drew Rittenhouse with his second pick of the game. He's hoping to take this one to the house. He's dodging around defenders, but he's taken down 43 yards return. And here's Ty Shanton. He dodges a defender. He's scrambling to the outside, and he's able to loft this one into the air. Elliott Lynn brings down 36-yard pass, and they're down on the goal line.
Yeah, and that won't be the last time you see Elliott Lynn. As you see him in this play, actually, as he goes up in the air, Elliott Lynn mosses that defender to get the touchdown, making it 14-7. Would not be their last touchdown in the game, however, as Zane Trace would go on to win 35-27.
Well, it sure looked like Zane Trace really took it to the Red Streaks from those highlights. Was that the case for the whole game?
Well, that wasn't entirely the case. After a quarter and a half, Piketon had the upper hand, and they were up 7-0. Once the Pioneers recognized the Red Streaks' inability to move the ball on the ground, they're able to sit back and snack on Connor Galloway's passes. Drew Rittenhouse had 3 picks in the first half alone to push his conference lead to 8 on the season.
Yeah, and also that Zane Trace offense, they're able to move methodically down the field, consistently running the ball and picking up 4 or 5 yards almost every down. Now, after they found their rhythm on the ground, Ty Shannon would go to the air and lob the ball down the sideline to their 6-foot-plus tall receiving crew, and they'd go up just over the Red Streak defenders to pull down tough catches all game long.
Yeah, Nick, that Pioneer offense sure was rolling. And with a lead of 28-7 in the third quarter, it seemed like they had the game put away. But Piketon refused to give up and put on one last show for the home crowd on senior night.
Yeah, you're right there. They sure did put on a show with that late fourth quarter comeback. They scored 14 unanswered points before Galloway threw his 4th interception of the night, which was returned for a touchdown. And that basically sealed their fate for the Red Streaks, giving Zane Trace the win. And with that win, Zane Trace took control of third place spot in the SVC as both teams now have a conference record of 4-2.
All right, good stuff from you guys over there. As always, thanks for the good work. All right, now that we've ran through all of our Week 9 coverage, let's take a look back at tonight's top plays. All right, play number 3 takes us out to Albany. Trimble on the road at Alexander. TVC Hawking and Ohio matchup. Tomcat Cam Kittle drops back and dumps it off to his boy Max Hooper. You can tell he's been playing some Madden. B button. Kid makes defenders look silly. Moving on to play number 2, Zane Trace versus Piketon. Sends it long here on offense. Drew Rittenhouse says, have a good one, boys. Snags that one out of the air. One of his 3 picks of the night, a hat trick. Out here looking like Ed Reed. He puts his heart in it, dog. And now play number 1, Wellston looking to kick it off to Meg's Marauder, Cole Adams. I'm telling you guys, big mistake. I'm not sure if he even gets touched. Hits the edge and turns the burners on. We'll be seeing you, boys. Mom's calling me home for dinner. Chicken and dumplings and brownies for dessert. No chance that man is missing a meal like that. 6 points for the Marauders. All right, now that Week 9 is all wrapped up. Here's where you can expect to see us next week. These games are some no-brainers for us. No choice but for us to get out there and cover these. Brandon Malfmer and the Chillicothe Cavs will be at Holzer Field to play Blake McCoy and the Jackson Ironmen. This one for the FAC title. And how about another conference championship? Nelsonville York, after narrowly escaping Benton County tonight, squaring off against the big, bad Bulldogs of Athens for the TVC Ohio Championship. And finally, in the MVL, with big-time playoff implications, Tri-Valley on the road at Maysville. And, of course, we will have much, much more coverage for you on the show next week as well. So be tuned in to us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll be letting you know where we will be at, and you can check out the show next week. So like I said, that is all we've got for you on tonight's show. As always, we are live at 11:30 on Friday nights. It'll be the same next week, so please tune into the show. But until then, I want you to remember that there is nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.